Right, good evening, what's the Dark City show? Pretty much open format, actually. I know we do a bit of a... Why is Sparky trying to ring in hundreds of times? Let's bring him into the room. And what we've had is today, I believe, in Birmingham, there's been a march, another EDFL march. I get them all mixed up, you know what I'm like with these abbreviations and my names. So, telephone lines are open. As always, the number to ring is 0161 298 0298. And yeah, when you do get on, if you're on a telephone and you can mute it, or keep your audio down, you will be live on the show. You make too much noise and you will be dropped from the call immediately. All right? Yeah. There might be a lot of passion with this, folks. So just remember, keep quiet. We'll bring each one of you in. If you are outside the UK and you want to join us, that's fine as well. Phone lines are international. You need to use +44 161 298 0298, or you can Skype us at Bob's Backyard, Dark City Radio. I believe there's another one now, so it had to happen. Bob's Backyard, Dark City Radio, and that's definitely us here. Same thing applies, but mute up when you come in the room. We will bring you into the conversation. If you don't want to do any of that, you can join us by going to our chat room, which is on the website, www.darkcityradio.com or .co.uk. Same thing, different smell. And you'll see a big banner there at the top of the page that says click to enter our chat. Just make sure you've got Bob's Backyard, #Bob's Backyard. That's the IRC channel. And if you've got your own IRC client, and we do hope you have, of course, in this world nowadays, we hope you've come into the 21st century and you've got an IRC client. It has been kicking around since the 70s, maybe a bit earlier. So you should have one by now. And then the channel is Bob's Backyard, and we're on AnonNet. That's AnonNet. And we're also on Mumble. And if you get yourself a Mumble server, again on AnonNet, which is Barbag. Careful how you say that one. And Dark City Radio, where we have a listener room and you can join the live studio totally free and open source. So, we've got a few tonight, and please ring in. We've got a few of the crew kicking around. We've got Bob from Resistance News. We've got Dawn from Dawn's Diorama. And we got our man in the street, our intrepid reporter, man. And we got Sparky, of course, who's the giant. And we've got Lee, our man over in Spain. And also joining us on the telephone is Dan. So I'll open up with you, Dan. You've been... You're an EDL supporter or sympathiser. I don't know what you call yourself, man.
More of a supporter, yeah.
Right, so you were down on the march today, yeah?
Yeah, I went on the march today in Birmingham. There was thousands of people there, obviously, protesting and saying their point. I'd say it went quite well, to be fair, until right at the end, where it was just the police that was trying to obviously cause a riot by the way they was behaving, but everybody that was there in general was just protesting and trying to get their word across in a peaceful way. Just obviously how we're fed up with, well, basically how the country's going from the government downwards, and the way that just normal English person is being treated, basically.
Right, so a lot of people think, and including myself, that can I join the EDF? If I want to join the EDF, is there any rules or regulations? You know, is there certain groups that can't join? If I was, say, African descent, born in this country, my parents came from, it's EDL. I keep saying EDF, don't I? Excuse me, my apologies. Yeah, I do this, man. I'm one of the world's great dyslexic. You'll have to excuse me. I don't mean to do that intentionally. I've got it written down in front of me, thanks to Dawn now. EDL, right. Excuse me. So, if I was a black African, born in England, but my parents are from Jamaica or somewhere, or Africa somewhere, of black descent, and I'm a Muslim, would I be welcome in the EDL?
You'd be welcome in the EDL if you was willing to accept England as England and not try and change it or do all the bad things like their Quran is saying, then yeah, that's more than welcome. I was stood there today next to Asians, Sikhs, black people, gays, lesbians, people from France, people from Norway, from all different walks and ways of life, and everybody got on well together. Everybody was trying to say their point and protest peacefully and stand side by side united. It wasn't like a load of Nazi skinheads stood there shouting racist abuse at everybody. It
right,
was...
so nothing like we'd seen in London after the murders not too long ago, or the murder, excuse me, or so-called murder.
No, there's an actual Sikh division for the EDL, and they was there today as well.
Right.
It's not a racist organisation. That's such what you're trying to say. If you're black or if you're Muslim or you can't come in, we're protesting against the extremist views and the ways that the Quran, that certain people are teaching the Quran to be against England, against America, against anyone that isn't Muslim.
So you're actually against the Muslim fundamentalists, you know, or I suppose any fundamentalist really. I mean, we don't understand. I mean, I don't know whether it is just Muslim. I'm asking the question.
It could be any fundamentalist, yeah.
Oh, I'm with you there, man. I think fundamentalists are a bit fundamental, you know, in their nature, you know. And if we want to look at that, people getting people to do bad things with books, and then we've got look no further than Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church, of course. Another misconception: the Union Jack. The Union Jack used to be very, very linked with these groups of English defence and so forth. And there's a lot of chatter regarding their allegiances, all the way back to Combat 18. And such groups as that. So yeah, I'm just wondering whether that you can put any light on that. Are there affiliations to other groups? And do the EDF are they a standalone group, the EDL, or do they work in other groups like UK Column, for instance, which is spread out now and spreads its word? Like you say, everybody's got a right to to their opinion. But are they an individual group, or are they affiliated with other groups?
It's more of like an individual group, but as you say, everybody has got their own beliefs, their own opinions, and I suppose certain people involved in it may be in groups that you would consider racist, but again, also people will be involved in things like the charity work that was going on while they were there today, trying to raise money for Amelia May. That cause, obviously, our government won't help her, pay for her NHS treatment, but we can send off £60 million to foreign countries. Do you know what I mean? We should be helping out our people in our country first.
Well, we'll just we just take away the pharmaceutical industry, mate. We can sort that out pretty easily. Well, it's not a joke. We've been working with Cures on Darkcity Radio, man. Have a look what we've been doing. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with you tonight, but we can take out a hell of a lot of the pharmaceuticals that are currently being misprescribed to thousands of people, man. Another group that I would, if I was a member of the EDL and the English Defence League, they put that down for me now, and I wanted to defend the good people of Britain, one of my first ports of call would be my doctor, and finding out why the doctor's been misprescribing of drugs fundamentally now, misprescribing of drugs which have got terrible side effects and maiming thousands of people all over the country right now, of all races, creeds, colours and religions. So, you know, I'd stand right with you there, man. But that is where we should be, rather than, in my opinion, of course, rather than going on the streets and demonstrating to the governments in an organised demonstration where the governments have actually said it's all right for us to demonstrate. For me, I find there's a bit of an irony there, but good information, mate. You're cracking down a few of these misconceptions that people have. Definitely. Now, is there still the allegiance to the flags that they had? I know this comes from banners and tribal warfare and unions and so forth. Is that still prevalent in the EDF? I know I saw it in my own town just recently, not so long ago.
There's a lot of people, obviously, that take flags. I took myself to St George's Cross today because I'm proud to be English, but I'm not proud to say the way that England's going. I'm all for a multicultural country and things like that, but when people are trying to fight England for being England, and then the government, as you said earlier, is just rolling over and just playing dead and doing whatever they want, they're not helping us they're just making the situation worse. And I think people's had enough now with all the stuff that's going on from the government downwards to all these extremist groups, that the only way people know how to obviously get their word out is to protest and show that.
There are other ways, man. There are other ways, rather than protesting, of course. But yeah, I can see that's the EDF. He keeps saying EDF, don't I? I can't get it right. The English Defence League, that's their stance on it, is to do peaceful demonstration and protest, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just goes to show just how many people are actually fed up with it, the way it's going. Obviously something needs to be done, but you're saying you go to your doctor and have a chat for this, that and the other. Who's to say the doctor's going to say anything to anyone?
Well, he isn't. That's my point. You go to your doctor and ask him about the prescription drugs that are being prescribed to certain members of your own family. I mean, that's where I'd start, in my own backyard, you know. And go and look at the side effects, look at what they're doing and do your own research and what's actually happening on that base level to us. Of course, they're being controlled and covered up, man. I mean, it's a terrible situation the country's in. I'm not trying to dispute that. We have given over to authority for long enough, and through this books and these people are forming into groups, okay, which are actually creating divisions in the collective of humanity, for want of a better word. Every man, woman and child on earth is first and foremost born human, or a man or a woman. A lot of people don't like the word human because it means you, a sub-colour. It's like you're saying we humans are of a lower race. And no, we should be all equal. All equal. You know, again, I don't want England to... You see, I see we have had a major invasion into the UK. In the last 15 years, man, in the last 15 years, maybe 20 years tops, there has been a major invasion. If you look around the country, we've got American McDonald's. I mean, we have got to be really careful of these corporation companies coming in and taking over. Oh, hang on a minute, it's a bit too late now, isn't it? They're all up the high street, and they've sold us this Monsanto-type food. You'd have to check more on that. The listeners know more about that than I do. But we've been sold low-grade food in ridiculous, like I say, McDonald's we've got KFC, haven't we? And there's others. I'm not even going to mention the scum. Not on here. We're a free media stream. But those, you know, we've been invaded by them. The American ideology, the way of doing things, you know. I mean, and, you know, you are a member of the EDL, which does fly under the corporate union flag of England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, which represents no people at all. That is a corporate banner of a business.
But what obviously that means to us is England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, we're saying obviously we are all one. That this country has fought.
No, we're not all one, man. A Scotsman is Scottish, he's not. That's an English perspective of domination and control.
It is part of Great Britain, which is...
There's no such place as Great Britain. There is no, it's a corporate union. No, there never was. It was a corporate union. It's a union created in business. Go and check it out, man. It's not for me to argue this point. You know, I'm not here to argue about the significance of a flag and why flags are used, you know. You go look down in such things as, I think it's the Articles of War. And if you go to, and you see a Union Jack flying with two European flags, you know, the starred Union flags on either side of it, what does it mean? What does it mean? What's the meaning of seeing two flags on the side of one flag?
I don't know.
Captured. Okay, and it's flying all around you. The evidence is there, man, if you want to see it. So, yeah, I do agree with you that the governments have kind of had us over and manipulated us into secular groups. Anyway, I do believe Dawn, from Dawn's Diorama, has got something she's going to add. Come on, Dawn, please. You have to unmute, Dawn.
Good point. I'm actually lying on the mute button and the cable. So anyway, I'm unmuted now. So the point I was wanting to make is the United Kingdom is a registered corporation. It's trading on the stock market. And some of the politicians are actually registered as corporations as well. It's
very true. You know, this is what it's about here, Dan. We like to share our information, you see. And I've got you kind of almost... Really? Yeah, really. That flag is actually a corporation. And as Dawn said, you can check that out because it is actually trading. Yeah, it's a
That's
treaty.
obviously part of obviously what we're about. We want to be ourselves again as our own country for ourselves. Like you're saying earlier, the government itself is the one that is shafting this country straight up the ass, basically, from every direction.
Well, the government's doing it, you're saying, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, well, I'd say where the people are allowing them to. You see, just a slight difference in perception. Go on.
But you say that, it's like with the voting, when everybody voted for this government, they didn't vote for a coalition, they voted for one person. Now, the government's come in, and all of a sudden, it's two governments in one.
Are you aware that there's not been a majority voted government since Attlee after the war? I think it was Attlee,
Nah.
could be wrong. Yeah, there hasn't, man. There has never been a majority. The minority, I think, maximum voting, something like 68%. Again, I get these things a bit mixed up. Let's say it's 70% of the people vote, turnout. Yeah? And out of that, to get a majority, you'd need 35%, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So let's say they get 40%. Now, you've got 40% of the population actually agree. The minority's been running us ever since, for generations after generations we've had minority rule. So I get what you're saying is you seem to be waking up to this, the reality that you're being screwed by your own government. It's not actually the people who are misreading and misrepresenting the Quran or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita. You know, they all twist it for their own. It's not that they are involved, but first and foremost, it would be the ones that we've placed into the so-called authority that are shafting us. I don't think we disagree there, do we?
I can't.
Have we lost you, Bob? I think we've lost Bob there. Is anybody else from the crew?
No, look, it's you, that. Everything's fine. That's you breaking up. But the caller just thought you were talking about him and he's just hung up. So he just lost the caller, unfortunately.
Maybe a call back.
I'm just trying to see if I can get him back now. No, it's not happening. Anyway, that was pretty cool. I learnt a few things there about the English Defence League that I didn't know. And I hopefully, Dan there, we managed to share a bit of knowledge. The guy generally didn't seem to know that.
Definitely broke down a few misconceptions with me, Bob.
Go on, Chris.
I said it definitely broke down a few misconceptions that I had about the English Defence League, about their attitude from what I've read in the media. So kind of a mutual understanding on both of our behalves, which I think is where we all need to be.
Yeah, I'm under no impressions that the EDL actually stems from certain other political organised groups, and if you follow the path of those groups, your hairs will stand on end. You really will. The original origins of these groups started in 1947, or you can go back earlier, where they were given freeman status of the land. Something I studied a while back with the Ashton Allotment Group to try and find out who were the original so-called landowners, or the ones that took the land under intellectual theft. So yeah, some I've dug into, Chris, a little bit. So yeah, the freemen of the land, or the freemen, are given free settlers status. There you go, free settlers status, 1947. The free settlers, the ones who were free to settle and who were above the law here, 9,000 of them.
And you're saying that's the roots of the EDL?
Well, let me.
Okay.
Well, there were 9,000 SS troops. Their supreme commander, of course, was a gentleman called Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler's, this is a 9,000. Check this out, folks. Don't take my word for it. It's called the rat lines. They were smuggled out through the Vatican, not just to Britain, but they were 9,000. An entire brigade, war criminals. So yeah, they were given free settler status in here. In Britain, so yeah, and then if you have a look at that, jump forward a little bit in time. Obviously, these people have now integrated into all sorts. You can find out information being broken about the Scouts groups and so forth. How they were used to train children in what do you call it, terror war or covert. A resistance army, so-called. contracts, lists of assassinations have been handed over. People did open them and have a look. So this is all pretty much historical fact nowadays that this went on. But bear in mind, this time we're being fed propaganda in Britain that the Germans are training their children in the Nazi youth. We were doing exactly the same. No difference at all. And if you have a look at where the ideology came from of these things, it started a long time before Adolf Hitler. So yeah, the reason why I mention Adolf Hitler is when you move forward now into groups which form together with football hooligans. Basically, the Nazis formed with football hooligans and formed into, I get my history right, into Combat 18. So Combat 18, most people thought they were a football associated. The 18 stands for the first and eighth letter of the alphabet under their Führer Adolf Hitler. Combat Adolf Hitler. So yeah, this can be tricked right. Oh well, they were combating against Adolf Hitler. Have a look at what their policy was, the reign of terror. So to terrorise people, to scare people, and that's why it's a shame that we lost Dan off the call. I wanted to mention about the EDFL march at Ashton-under-Lyne, only three, maybe 4 weeks ago, where some teenagers had a fight in a bus stop, and this turned into a racial attack. It was teenagers having a fight in the bus stop. So the EDFL came to town, and all the Asian businesses, whether they be Chinese, whether they be Japanese, Polish, Indian, Pakistani, no F. Is it English Defence League? Oh, I keep saying it wrong. Anyway, one of them anagrams came to town, it caused a great deal of issues for the local people and local trade. Is that you, Dan? Have you rejoined?
Yeah, I'm back on my landline now. I've run out of signal on my phone.
Oh well, if this is this call costing you, Dan?
Yeah, it's on my landline. It should
all
be
right,
free.
well, no worries, man. Just hang up. I'll ring you back immediately. It'll be free.
All right, brilliant. Cheers.
All right, man. There we go. Just wait till Dan reconnects there. Sorry about the bleeps. I can't shut that up. But
no.
There you go. Welcome back to Dark City, mate. Yeah, we'll do that when we can't do it with mobile phones, but landlines we can do that. So why not, indeed? I was just saying, Dan. Welcome back again. And Chris and a few of the others were saying that basically you've smashed a few of the misconceptions that we've got of the EDL. I've been calling it EDF again. And one of them we got into was the flag and the corporate bodies there, and the control of them, and the roots and the origins of EDF, EDL, and the BNP, British National Party, the football integration with football hooligans, Combat 18 being the amalgamation of the two, and the 18. I don't know if you're aware that the 18 stands for the first and eighth letter of the alphabet, which signifies the letters AF, standing for Adolf Hitler. So I don't know if a lot of people know the roots and the origins of many of these things, and the reasons why they still use a lot of the same symbology. That, I think, concerns a lot of people, Dan. I know it's concerned me when I see EDL, and I could be completely misconstrued here, and it's about me learning and admitting when I'm wrong as well, but the EDL being affiliated to other groups, as I've just mentioned. So I think there's a big concern that walking with the Union Jack, which is, of course, doesn't represent any people, it doesn't represent a country or a land or a state, none at all, marching under that banner and asking for rights to be English under a corporate banner, I find preposterous.
But then what would you say that people would sort of, what would you say then would be good enough for people to vote for the country? So obviously everybody who's going to these demos and things like that obviously think there's a problem with how things are going. So if you're saying that people shouldn't be walking underneath these flags for this, then what should we be doing, basically? What should we do?
Yeah, here's one for you. We're working with a gentleman. We've been working with a gentleman called Rick Simpson who's got a cure for cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if Rick Simpson had the support that the English Defence League, I'm going to have to say it, I keep wanting to put F on the end, the English Defence League had, then there wouldn't be any cancer. So there's one. Another one would be social integration through agriculture on a local basis, getting people triggered into growing their own fruit and vegetables sociably across, and starting to use things like that and many other things to break these social boundaries that have been placed. You and me, to start, because the governments do work, man, religions, governments, they do work in segregating us, breaking us up. When we start to build a good community or a good networking base, they often send their infiltrations and get good groups of good, honest, truthful people who genuinely care about what's going on, and they've got people manipulated to react. We had I don't know if you were on that march, but there was one in just outside Manchester. I don't know if you remember it. Dan, a few weeks back at a town called Ashton-under-Lyne.
Yeah, I wasn't there, but yeah, I know the one, yeah. Right.
So the EDL, I got it right. The EDL came to Ashton-under-Lyne because of, do you know why they came?
Because of obviously all the soldiers and stuff, the way they was being treated on the way back, and obviously all the ideas and things that's going on. And
no, because there was a racial attack. It was all over the EDL picked it up and they ran it over the internet as that there'd been this racial attack. This racial attack was a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
Don't matter what country you're in, does it? They get wound up and they get frustrated and they start fighting one another, and there's a bit of a scuffle in the.
Also, what you say with that,
in a bus stop.
Like
kids fighting in a bus. You get what I'm saying? Kids fighting in a bus stop.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
blown up by the EDL in my hometown, right? Which all the businesses, the local, the good people, man. These are, like you say, the good people, different races, different creeds.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, if they weren't white, the businesses weren't open. There wasn't an Asian person in the town. There wasn't an African person in the town. A good friend of mine I've known for years, Shaheed, years, man, brother, you know what I mean? Born and bred over here. He's more English than most English people. Stands in his community for what's right and just, regardless of creed or colour. So a real man gets arrested by the police for walking his dog. He gets arrested for the police for walking his dog. Why would they do such things? To trigger racial tension, you think, Dan?
That's the actions of obviously the police, like the police today. They was attacking people because people wanted to leave the demonstration and go to New Street or however they was leaving, and because they wouldn't let people out, they was physically attacking people for no reason. Now, obviously, we don't stand there and support the police attacking people, be it white, black, Asian, or whatever race or anything. Obviously, the police should be there to serve and protect the people, not to basically instigate a riot, which is, in my view, what they was trying to do today.
Those would have been police officers rather than police constables, Dan. Police
it's
officers, they're instruments.
All part of the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. They're completely different, Dan. A police constable and a police officer are completely different things. One of them is a servant of the public. The other one is a servant of the government. Which the government, of course, is a corporate body. It's a business.
But they're not serving us. Do what they're told by their chief or whoever's higher up.
Yes, that's right.
Them, they still
they don't. No, they don't. They have to act under their oath. A constable should act under their oath, and that is to uphold the law, right? And that does not mean beating innocent civilians because they want to walk down the high street.
I completely agree.
Yeah, they're not police officers.
This is what they should do. But in reality, their actions, the majority, is different. If I walk down the street, say, in certain parts of Birmingham that are majority non-white past a certain time, I'll get attacked. I've even been told by the police myself when I've been in certain areas, you shouldn't be here, you need to leave because I'm white, basically, and things like that. Now, those police shouldn't be saying that to me. They should be saying, well, if you don't feel safe, then we're here to protect you, basically, not to, you shouldn't be here.
They're not coming creating fear. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dan. Who are there to tell you where you can and can't go? And, if that is happening, then we need to get more integration between that secular group that's happened in our beautiful country. You know, this is, you know, everybody who's here, who's resident here, is resident here. And many of the immigrants have actually paid to come here. Do you know? When you actually look at it, and the government's still selling it, man. They're still selling it. 21,000 it costs you, euros anyway. Well, because you know if you get into Europe, it's easier to get into Britain. 21,000 for a couple, you can get in.
Well,
you know, this is they're still selling it, man. The government's still selling jobs. Oh, come to Britain, get a job, come over here, blah, blah. It's still going on, mate.
Yeah,
but only if you've got money. And do you know what happens when they arrive? Do you know what happens? Can you imagine, man? Right, you put yourself in their position, right? All your family works together to give you an education. Then they send you over to Britain to get a good job. The life savings of the family, you arrive here and you end up on the dole. Hang on a minute. My next door neighbour, right? He's an absolute genius. He came over here to finish his education. Can't get a job. He's an English citizen. He can't get a job. He ain't got any work. He works as a security guard. There is no jobs.
I agree. It's the same where I live. There's people that I know that's been to university for 5-6 years, and they can't even get a job collecting trolleys at Tesco.
I know, and their parents, their grandparents may have actually fought and died in wars here, man. To allow what? The corporations to come over. Like I say, man, we don't seem to be disagreeing on a lot. You know, this is not about a racial thing. This is about us taking back our own power. Not, you know, with the greatest of respect, bro, a lot of us have done a lot of demonstrations, right? A lot of our listeners have done a lot of demonstrations, and we didn't get anywhere. You know, all right, we see a voice. They just changed the name. The anti-poll tax, man, years back, what did they do? They changed its name and reintegrated it. Now we're all complaining about paying council tax. You know, and when we do win in court, what do? They change the law. Yeah. You see? No, that's not fair and just, is it?
No, it's not. You're completely right. Our government is one of the main problems. But when people say like the EDL, oh, you're racist, you're this.
No, well, to be honest, man, when the EDL, right, came to Ashton-under-Lyne, they came because the EDL on the internet had made little kids having an argument. Yeah, they're not old teenagers, 13, 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Video goes up on YouTube, it becomes a racial attack. The EDL, English Defence League, decides to come and have a march.
But it's like you're saying there's just one single incident that's resulted in the EDL coming up.
Yes, man, yeah. If you ask the EDL, they'll tell you the same. Check it, Ashton-under-Lyne. That's the incident. They come down. It was all over the internet. It had EDL all over it. They were saying it was racial, and the police were covering it up. It wasn't racial. There were a load of kids running around after it had happened. Hey, it's summer. They've done that on this estate for years. I've lived here for 25 years.
This is what we're trying to say. That there's where I'm from Worcester. There's large areas of Worcester that are predominantly non-white, and there's gangs going round of Asians and people like that going round and specifically targeting young white people because they're white or they're English or they're not Muslims, basically. And it's starting off, like you say, with young kids 13, 14 years old, but it is going right through the range.
All right, well, what you need to do is go to the mosque. Go to the mosque and speak to their elders politely. Okay? Go to the mosque and speak to their elders.
I've walked past the mosque.
No, don't walk past it.
Lives, and I actually feel not intimidated, but I feel like if I was to walk up to their doors, it wouldn't be a very friendly reception.
All right, well, don't, man, don't. Oh, look, I'll tell you what. Right, I don't know where you're from.
Keep themselves to themselves and segregate themselves away from us.
Come to Manchester, Dan, right? Yeah. I'll get some of the Asian lads, take you to the mosque, and you can get introduced to it here. I'm not saying become a Muslim. I wouldn't take on it. As far as I'm concerned, you should burn down all of them. The churches, the mosques, the cornfields, get rid of them all. We don't need them. We can govern ourselves.
In the world.
It's predominantly Asian. And we hardly get any police coming on the estate. They're not needed. The community sorts it out. Some people get angry sometimes, they don't often get to throw in blows. I haven't seen that for ages. People chase around one another for a bit sometimes. But, there's no real harm done at the end of the day. They took away all the amenities for the kids, there's no play areas for them now, there's no youth support for them.
In the community, all like people integrate with each other. You'll have whites and Asians, this bit of friends and things like that. But in areas where I'm from, in places like Birmingham, I was saying that where the demo was today, you're going around areas where if you're not a Muslim, then the majority of Muslims there will turn on you, basically. Chase
Well, they're not Muslims, man. No, hang on a minute. I've got to stop you there.
Yeah.
All right? They are not Muslims.
But they're going under the words that they're Muslims.
Well,
they're quoting Quran and things like that. So
they might be, but you've got to know, right? Because you're an educated man. Okay, you've got to know that that's not what a Muslim is judged upon his action, not upon his word. That is not a Muslim. A Muslim does not. It's against their law to even offend you.
But also, in Muslims, that same book, it tells them that they are. Everybody who's a non-Muslim is inferior, or it is their right to say what they want.
It also says in the Bible, right, that all plants should be available, but cannabis is illegal. Just because it says it in a book, you know, it says it in Bob's Guide to the World. Ignore anyone who's secular. Okay?
Yeah.
Right. So, do you know, in my little book, yeah, it doesn't matter what group you formed, you've created a division in the group that we already are. And it's the group.
This is what the Israelis are protesting about. Is like you're saying, not all Muslims are the same, but we're not protesting against all Muslims. We're protesting against Muslim extremists. We're protesting against...
Well, they're not Muslims.
Muslims that want Sharia law over here, that are quoting that verses from the Quran and playing on that basis. That is obviously what we're protesting against. If they're all saying, we're Muslims, we're Islam, Allah, this, that and the other, how can we not put that into what we're protesting against when that is what they're saying they're protesting for?
You need to go and have a look what it says. Have you read the Quran?
I've read parts of it, yeah. I haven't read it all, no, but I've read some of it, yeah.
Right, well, I'd suggest you put it next to your Bible and burn it. All right? That's what I suggest you do. Okay? Because you're not getting what it says. That's not what that book's about. It really isn't. Okay? It's being misused, and those people are not Muslims. They are imposters. So's a Christian who kills in the name of God. That's another imposter. Dawn?
No, I agree. I'm against that as well.
Go on, Dawn. Go on.
Hi. I wanted to bring up a couple of words. Just divide and conquer. Just always think back to divide and conquer. What are the ones pulling the strings of the government trying to do to society? They're trying to divide and conquer us, have us all fighting with each other, so that we don't focus on the ones that are actually robbing us and the lying, cheating, thieving scum, as Paul likes to say a lot of the time. But yeah, it's very much an agenda to divide and conquer us. It's all about the focus of your energy, really. You've got to just be careful with your focus of energy. Ultimately, I'm not talking about... I don't really know a great deal about EDL, so I'm not going to go down that road. Haven't formed an opinion on it because I don't know enough to really do that. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all pink on the inside. We're all... there is extremists in every type, every kind of... every group, if you will, like whether it's Protestant, whether it's Catholic, whether it's... if you're talking about religions, or whether it's Muslims, or, you know, or whether it's people... in groups like yourself, there'll be extremists in there, and there'll be regular folk as well, like yourself. You know, every single group has extremists. But at the end of the day, I just think you have to focus on the divide and conquer and try not to get carried away with the whole...
But you can't excuse the fact, obviously, that all these child sex grooming gangs that are going around, or all the bombings, or the terrorists that are getting arrested, and plots that are getting foiled, all things like that. You can't, obviously, it's mainly, at this moment in time, Muslim, or people claiming they're Muslims and doing it in the words of Islam.
That's actually true, man. If you want to take the figures, the real facts behind it, there are more people being hacked to death now in the hands of using English machetes, which were sent out to Africa. So you really need to kind of look at that. The Western world is murdering, raping, and pillaging right now far more than the entire Muslim community put together. Go ahead, Dom.
I think you have to follow the money. You have to look into who is funding what. Really, that's the gist of it. Because if you follow the money, then you'll get to the truth. And yeah, I mean, it involves the whole media. The media there's all the propaganda and the media demonizing people in the Middle East. Now, I'm not either way. I mean, at the end of the day, I see people as humans, and I judge people by their actions, rather than, if they're a good person, they're a good person. It doesn't matter what background they're from or what race or religion or whoever. It's irrelevant. I don't look at that. I look at what kind of person they are, So I think it's important not to get, I don't know how to formulate what I'm thinking, but if you can if you can get what I'm trying to say.
Happens to me all the time, that, no? All the time.
I know, I'm thinking so many things at the one time that I just can't formulate a sentence, so excuse me if I come up with anything, I'll jump in.
So yeah, a brilliant topic this evening. So I am actually a bit amazed that more people haven't actually rung in. Perhaps not all the English Defence League people see it the way Dan sees it. I sincerely hope they do. I really hope they do. I hope they recognise the corporate banners that they're using and look into that. Because it is about our sharing our information, and it is about us all working together with open source information. However, if we come to a point where we're going to begin to defend our position, rather than take on new, fresh ideas, which may be the solution, then obviously we're not actually being men and women of our word. It's all right saying we want to have change, we want to bring some new, fundamental ideas to the forefront and bring some new divergent things into the mainstream, which of course, if anybody's kind of twigged it, without those kinds of ideas, we would have never progressed at all in any way. And for a lot of people, it looks like we haven't progressed that far. So, yeah, maybe going round in circles asking for another political group to actually instigate and do a better political job than the last political job is just repeating what we've done already, I fear. Lee?
Yeah, all right, Dan, just say hello. It's
Hey,
nice to
Dan,
speak to you again. I've been listening from the background. But what I wanted to add as well is, what you've got to take into consideration is the fact of this Muslim extremism, as it's known as. Obviously, I'm from an area pretty much like the bad areas of Birmingham. I'm in Leicester. And there was racial shit going on fucking way back then when I left in the 80s, And don't you think it all kind of like, it's all come from the Iraq-Iran war, Afghanistan war invasions and all that sort of shit. That's created the extremism. But so you can safely say that the extremism in the UK was created by the UK government's actions. Maybe they planned it to happen. Maybe, just say it has. But if they did plan it to happen, you can see why they'd want to feed what they've created. Right? And then when you look at things like that link I showed you, Chris Spivey's blog about what happened in Woolwich, and the inconsistencies of what's going on there, man, and how the news reports, you don't hear about kids getting fucking hacked to bits, innocent guys kissing just out with their missus getting hacked to bits on a Saturday night in Rochdale or in fucking Manchester or Birmingham city centres, which happens every week, man. It's fucking
every day.
It's aggressive out there, man. You don't hear it on the news. It's not plastered all over the fucking... that drunken arseholes are killing our kids. Right? Now, if everybody reacted, I'm talking about the English people and the Muslim lads, if everybody in the country reacted to the fucking travesty that's happening across in Afghanistan and Iraq, the same as these angry Muslim lads do, right? But changing their target, it being the government rather than the fucking neighbours, then it would all end straight away. The government would fucking have to drop it.
But it's saying that 3 million people marched against the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the government obviously...
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I tried to explain to you before. If you actually look at what their corporations, like Paul was saying, so they work in a different zone. It's a commercial land, and they talk a different language, which is called legalese. And in legalese, the act of protest is acceptance, but not. I don't like it, but I'm accepting it. That's what protest means. So when they saw 3 million people march through the city, it's like 3 people signing, saying, I agree. Right? That's what protest means. That's why, and you think about it now, when you had your EDL march today, it was all organised. The police, they told you which fucking exit you had to come off the motorway. They told you where you had to park your bus. They had to tell you which street you walked along, which pub you're going to sit in, which nightclub you're waiting in. Do you know what I mean? It's a fucking setup, Dan. It's all bullshit, mate.
We had less rights today than the opposing things, the UAS and things like that. They was running rings all around where we was demonstrating. But everybody in the EDL, men, women, children, even old people with dogs and things like that, we was all kept like caged animals, because the word from the top, i.e. the government, things like that, have said that's what they got to do. And we was all treated like criminals, basically, today. And in respect of what their actions was towards the end of the day, I think it went quite peacefully. But, like you're saying, from the government and things like that, they're the ones pushing to... I can't think of any words to say it, but just they're the ones pushing to obviously create all the havoc. But you can't obviously argue against the things that are happening as well.
You're dead right there, Dan. But the thing is, that's what you see when you start to recognise that they're actually fucking... If you say, well, okay, why would they do that? And if you keep constantly coming up with the thing, well, they must have meant it. They must have meant us to get aggressive. They must have meant the demonstrators. Why would they kettle people for fucking 4 hours? You know, that is going to just piss off a lot of fucking people for... Do you know what I mean?
That's why they did it. They wanted a reaction so they could portray EDL as being racist hooligan thugs that are there just to have a fight, which is obviously not what we was about.
Dan, and thinking about it, if they get the EDL on the media to look like mindless thugs, who will be enraged by it?
Who's going to come out and attack you? Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
That's why they're trying to right on the button, Lee. Right on the button. You know, we've seen it too many times. We've got a good man here in Dan. He's a good man. I can pick that up from you, Dan, from what you're saying, bro. And that's exactly what had happened. There is an infidel in this land. It's the government. That's who they are. And those police officers, not constables, not them that are signed up to serve the people, but them have been duped. Bob Earthwise, I think, wants to get in. Come on, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to a previous point where we were talking about the origins of the system, really, and immediately, you know, ancient Egypt, the pharaohs, slavery, building pyramids came to mind, and then I sort of followed that right through, and it was mentioned that there'd been progression and that we weren't under that type of Roman, Greek authority that had been imposed right from the beginning. But actually, I suddenly saw that we are still building pyramids, and people, factions like the EDL are some sort of whip almost that the pharaohs are applying to keep everyone else dragging those blocks about. I mean, that's all I wanted to say. It was
nice one, Bob.
Just a little vision that pops in.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for being patient, Don. I brought Bob in because of his internet dropping on and off. But Don, away you go, please.
Yeah, it was a while ago that this came up, but I wanted to bring in about the important fact about the media and the part they play in things. I know we have kind of touched on this a little bit, but looking at the wider picture, because obviously, I mean, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence here. You seem like a smart guy and you know, quite down to earth guy. Now, the background of like what they're talking about is important, you know, like because obviously we all know that it's full of propaganda. The mainstream media, corporate media, if you will, is full of. But what the message they're saying, why are they saying it? Who's funding that media, and what is their agenda ultimately? And it always falls back to the point I made earlier: divide and conquer.
I can understand what you're saying, obviously, but I think the agenda of it is to make people stand up and do something. Like you were saying earlier, the majority of the people in this country, if 100% of people voted, maybe things would be different from the government and things like that. At the march I was at today, Tommy and Kevin made their speeches, and they both said, vote. To get your point across, the only thing we can do is vote. Now, the point of these demonstrations and protests and things like that, it's getting that message out there. Most young people, or most working class people, don't vote because they don't think that it makes a difference. Now, doing demonstrations and things like this is showing people that one voice is not just one voice, it's 10 or 100 or 1,000, and if everybody does something about it, i.e. going on the streets, listening to speeches, if it sticks in half of those people's heads, or maybe next time there's a vote, we'll vote, maybe something will change, and things can happen from the top downwards, but it's just obviously getting that to happen and getting that message out there.
We're almost out of time, Dan, and will you work on the head of it? We'll continue to rip the root out here at Dark City and bring forth that change, man. It's been great having you with us, Dan. Don't hang up, Dan. Don't hang up. Kick around. Everyone who's out there and to the listeners who are out there, and a big shout out to Rachel, our Rachel from Spain, back over in the UK. And I know she's listening. Get yourself well, sweetheart. Our hearts and minds are actually with you right now. So big up Rachel, everyone. That was the Dark City Show, folks. And please join us again. We're going to go out. What are we going to go out with? What shall I give you to go out with? Future. This is an amalgamation. I love it when these things happen. I know I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. You know, when we get different members coming together, and this is an amalgamation. This is a work between Vosto. And Vosto, if you're listening on holiday, we miss you. Come back soon. And our Jabber from Babylon Decoded.
Take you power, but no one step on mine. Don't give them more of that. No one can If you are immigrant to the second world, a stranger to its customs, rules and verb, you might witness a cursed generation flirt with the devil, and eventually you will convert. No one can look so far, no one can pretend the future. Still a one step from us, no one can bring the stars. You are part of a child, no one can look so far. You are part of a child, no one can pretend the future. Take you power, but no one step from us. Don't give them more of that, no one can bring the stars. Your future is you, no one can look so far. No one can look so far, no one can pretend the future. But I can see, still no one step from us. It's what is inside of me, no one can bring the stars. You are part of a child, no one cannot, can jump up and look so I can jump, I cannot, I can look so you are part of a child, I can jump up and look so I can jump, I cannot, I can you can look so you are part of a child. You are part of a child, no one can look so far. You are part of a child, no one can pretend the future. Take you power, but no one step from us. Don't give them more of that, no one can bring the stars. Your future is you, no one can look so far. No one can look so far, no one can pretend the future. But I can see, still no one step from us. It's what is inside of me, no one can bring the stars.
Promote peace and harmony among nations. Being a new beginning for mankind. New beginning. New beginning. Finally, after all these years, what I have been telling the public about the healing abilities of these oils has all been proven to be true. Well, of course, I'm Rick Simpson, and this is the Dark City Radio Show. Dark City Radio Show. Dark City Radio Show. Dark City Radio Show. This is about the medicinal use of cannabis. Lately, we've been trying to get this thing going together in Spain, so people can come and get treatment. At the Compassion Club we helped to form. Dark City Radio's Compassion Club we helped to form. I had the pleasure of coming into contact with Paul Hayden and all the other great people he is working with at Dark City Radio. Compassion Club, we utilize this magnificent plant in every conceivable way. It will do much to promote peace and harmony among nations. Peace and harmony among nations. Being a new beginning for mankind. So I hope you will support our plan to build a better way of life that will give both mankind and this earth as we know it